people in this market are not understanding why the people are being careful. And moreover, Lee, what's happening is that whatever you could afford to buy for $50, you have to pay now 120. That means you're deprived from cash flow, which is an issue for businesses, especially in a market where there is a lot of immaturity. Furthermore, in mature markets, the issue happens from leverage. So if you're leveraged and the cash flow requirements are high and the cost of debt is high, you have a massive cash flow crunch, meaning you're not being able to go back and repurchase from you, the producer. So you, producer, have to think now, am I looking for short-term gains or am I looking for longevity?
If you're starting or growing your business in these volatile times in coffee and you need a little extra support, our scope of business advisory services may be just what you need. Join one of our hugely successful mastermind groups for support in a group setting, or send us an email to discuss our one-on-one consulting and business advisory services, where we'll work with you one-on-one to solve specific problems in your coffee business. All our services come with a 100% money-back guarantee, so send us an email at support@mapitforward.org and let us know how we can help you today. Welcome to the Map It Forward Middle East podcast, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of an awesome 5-part series with Mohamad Merhi from Cypher Coffee Roasters here in the United Arab Emirates. We're talking about building a successful coffee brand in the Middle East. And in this episode, we're talking about how have recent challenges in the coffee crisis impacted brands in the Middle East. But let's speak specifically in this episode about prices. So we have, as we've spoken about, Mohamad, very many different layers of coffee businesses here in the Middle East. We have your traditional, old school, rakwa and dalla drinking, super dark roast, very commercial coffee. There's that part of things, and it goes all the way up to hyper specialty. Every category of coffee has experienced an increase in coffee prices over the past, let's say, 12 months. How have those challenges impacted different brands in this region?
Oh, significantly. Because the rise in the price of coffee that we've seen in the past 9 to 10 months, even a year, is massive. It's not it's something that is significant. And in an immature market and a mature market, it's massive. But in an immature market, the good thing about it, I think, is that it teaches people lessons. It tells them that the prices of coffee, like I've had that conversation with many clients who thought that the prices who thought coffee is like something that is stable in price. Why are you increasing the price? And you go on an educational, type of a journey with them to tell them that there's futures and it's listed in New York, it's in New York, and then for the Robusta, it's in London, blah, blah, blah. And you talk about all of what you've mentioned. Furthermore, I take the knowledge that I've gained from the origins into perspective. These rising prices of coffee, if you travel to the origins and you see the difficulty the farmers are going through and the countries of origin going through, you actually would have said it's normal for the prices to increase. But honestly, the prices have increased significantly. So in my point of view, I came to peace with it because at the end of the day, most of our relationships are direct relationships. Not all, but most.
Help people understand what that means. Some people may not understand what that means.
So people who, just to be clear, very clear, I respect the middleman. I don't think, you should cut the middleman. There's a reason why there are exporters, and yes, they add value,
Well, for some people, you're a middleman.
Yes, for some people, I'm a middleman, and I'm a add value. And the exporters, they do add value because sometimes the farmers can't finance from, picking from the cherry until FOB. They can't. They need someone to finance that part of the business. And some farmers don't want to deal with processing and so on. And some farmers can. Hence why I say that we have many relationships that are direct. Some relationships are not direct, so it's fine. What we do is the due diligence even on the indirect ones. You know what I mean? Like we try to, and that's something personal to the brand. I don't need a stamp of approval from someone sitting somewhere else in the world that created that, stamp of approval. With all the respect to all stamps of approval, you know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is that, we do our homework. We're comfortable with certain people that we work with. And going back to my point, how I came to peace with it, the prices were significantly lower. And that same partner of mine was selling me the coffee. Okay. The cycle, like life, it's cyclical, is up now. And who's benefiting? Mostly, you can say, the producers, the people that you're buying from. And he's my partner. And he's benefiting. I'm happy for him. He was providing me the coffee when the prices were low. So I've reached a level of satisfaction that, look, at the end of the day, I'm building a long-term relationship with someone. His growth is my growth. And if he's benefiting now from this cycle, it's massive. I'm happy for him. But there are some drawbacks. This is what people need to understand, Lee. There are some drawbacks. It's not always good for the farmer for prices to stay like that and the volatility to be like that. That's what's massive. The volatility is massive because
we should explore that more. Go ahead.
Yeah, because this is creating jitterness in the market. This is creating, you're not sure of what the hell is going on when it comes to pricing. And at the end of the day, most of the time, what's financing the buyer is the ability for him to resell his product. If it reaches a point where the cost is so high and the financing that he gets from reselling the product that I bought from you, the producer, I'm not being able to sell. That means my inventory is holding. I'm not being able to turn over my cash in order to buy from you again. It's not good for you as well. That's why there is a point where it should be good for both parties involved in these terms, all parties involved in this transaction. So this is something that, we've discussed heavily with our, partners, is that, look, massive increase in price, immature market, people in this market are not understanding whether people are being careful. And moreover, Lee, what's happening is that whatever you could afford to buy for $50, you have to pay now $120. That means you're deprived from cash flow, which is an issue for businesses, especially in a market where there is a lot of immaturity. Furthermore, in mature markets, the issue happens from leverage. So if you're leveraged and the cash flow requirements are high and the cost of debt is high, you have a massive cash flow crunch, meaning you're not being able to go back and repurchase from you, the producer. So you, producer, have to think now, am I looking for short-term gains or am I looking for longevity? A sustainable relationship with someone. That means I want the best for my partners, as well as I want the best for him when the prices are going to be low. You get what I mean? So this is where relationships matter. This is where open discussions, discussing in an honest, transparent manner, your difficulty as a buyer, as well as him discussing the producer or having an open mind and trying to lower your ego here, trying to understand each one involved, what their situation is. This is the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is that if you want to continue to supply high quality coffee, you have to increase your prices. You have to.
Yeah.
And
there's no way of looking
at the end of the day, the consumer, whether it's a home consumer or a cafe, needs to accept that. Because if you want to continue to provide quality products, they have no, I mean, for God's sakes, these increase in prices are not something that should be absorbed only by one section of the supply chain. It shouldn't. It should be all across.
Well, it's affecting all qualities
Exactly.
of coffee.
Yeah.
It's and one could say that it's affecting commercial grade coffee more than it's affecting specialty grade coffee because that's taken the most direct hit the most
100%.
immediately.
100%.
And
But now,
I'm not.
but the good thing also, Lee, is that let's look at the positives. People are getting educated. People now know what
They're
are-
forced to.
Yeah, exactly. The New York futures.
Alhamdulillah.
Now they make my life easier when it comes to educating. You know what I mean? Now they know about this. They know that they do understand the situation, because when we first started, they're saying, "Oh, but the price of green is this much and the roasted coffee is this much. Why are you selling here?" You know, they forget all the other costs that you have to, bring in, plus the price of green coffee. You know what I mean? But now people are getting more and more educated about it and understanding. Furthermore, what happens is that it really filters out the fluff.
Say more.
Meaning, there are, again, going back to what we discussed in the previous episode, some people in this business for the wrong reasons.
La.
Example, like people think that if I'm roasting 100 kilos, if I'm a cafe, I'm consuming 100 kilos, I should open my own roaster. So, but I get that. I get that a lot. So I'm telling you.
Folks, 100 kilos is not a good enough business case to be doing that.
What I'm trying to say is that it clears out people who are in the industry for the wrong reasons, or people who are doing it in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like, if you're over leveraged, you're overexposed to debt, and you're playing that game. No, also this is a way of, like, at the end of the day, when the price increases, this is where the way you got choked significantly, and you compete based on price only, because you burn your prices hoping that you're gonna get volumes. Everyone wants to be Jeff Bezos nowadays. Screw the bottom line and this bullshit.
I mean, it's so true. Everybody thinks that coffee is a vehicle, or it's the industry that you should go into if you want to become mega, mega rich. It's the success fallacy, right? Yeah. This idea that because there's so many cafes, because there's so many roasteries, because there's so many people doing coffee, it must be profitable. And then the price crisis happens, or the coffee crisis in general happens, and it's having the opposite effect.
Yes.
It's culling our industry and forcing people to close. And folks, we are seeing a lot of businesses close in this region.
Yeah. Yes. Region around the world, not only in this
globally.
Region. Yeah, globally.
Globally. It's happening everywhere. Australia is a mess right now.
Yeah,
America.
But the thing is, any commodity, not only coffee, by the way, it happens in any commodity through the cycles. The change in the prices of coffee, if you look historically how the graphs move,
right?
It happens. It happens in any industry.
Except there's something different about this. And people who listen to the main podcast, the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, there's a lot of information about this specific thing in a series that we did with Carly Garner. She's a futures broker, and we had this conversation about whether these prices are going to stick where they are now. So traditionally on the futures market, guys, if you don't know, the average is somewhere around $1.40 per pound on the coffee futures market for Arabica in New York. That price has shifted to over $2.50.
Yeah.
Now that's a huge jump. And our base price right now is rarely tipping below $3.60.
Yeah. I
agree. The big question that we want to know...
Sorry to interrupt you, but going back to my point, if that's the new norm and there is stability, it's fine. You get what I mean?
It's fine, but we need to understand why. And this is what I want people to understand, is that the reason that, are we going to see 140 again, or are we going to stick at 360? That it's important for people to consider and make their decisions based off this. Are the situations that are leading to these prices to be this level, are they going to change or are they going to continue to get worse? Now, one of the main factors that is causing these prices to be where they are is supply. So Brazil and Vietnam, the top 2 coffee producing countries, let's say the top 3 include Colombia. The weather patterns that are happening in those 3 countries are completely out of whack. And we have no reason to believe that they're ever going to stabilize again. Yeah. And so what we need to figure out is, if you're listening to this and saying, well, I'm building a coffee brand and I'm going to be price focused. Well, how can you count on what those prices are going to be if the situation that's causing this price crisis is continuing to change? How do you build partnerships with importers like Cypher if what you're going to constantly be going back to them and saying is, no, I need cheaper coffee?
Yeah.
Nobody's able to buy Brazil's right now.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world. Brazil used to be the blender that everybody used because Brazil was cheap. Now everybody's looking for African coffees. Mm-hmm. And they're not using Brazil's anymore. If this is how we're going to keep going, what does that do to the end consumer? Because they may not have known that 60% of your blend was Brazil before, and now you're trying to make 60% of your blend Ethiopian now.
But
they will taste it.
Yeah, but also there is an argument that, the prices will go up and will go down and the market will adjust. These are normal market forces moving in different directions. So what's important is, again, what I said before, is that sticking to your values. What are your values? And what do you want to supply? And what type of coffees that you want to supply? And what type of relationships you want to maintain? All of these type of things, at the end of the day, they come to the rescue. Because you're aligned with everyone within the within your stakeholders, whether it's supplier, whether it's clients, whether it's, all the parties involved in that supply chain.
All right, but tell me, so let's look at a couple of different regions. Let's say in the Levant, let's take Lebanon, for example. Shout out to Rana Hassaniye, right? Rana's building brands in Lebanon, and not just a single Rana out, but that's one of the brands that I know in Lebanon. Yeah. Versus a brand here in the UAE.
Yeah.
When it comes to the challenges that a country like Lebanon is experiencing with regards to getting access to currency, their people being under constant challenges and crisis after crisis after crisis. A business owner in Lebanon and most places in the Levant are going to be really, they're making decisions based on different things than what business owners here in the UAE or in Saudi might be making. Am I correct or not?
100%.
So how do they approach this price crisis in coffee?
Absorb some of the margins to wait and see what's going to happen and increase your prices. Both. Okay. Meaning if that's what we've done. We increase some prices and we absorb, because to compensate for 100% increase in the price of green coffee, there's a percentage of increase in price over your volumes that you need to do. Are you ready to shift all of that on your clients and shock them? Or are you ready to increase a bit and then absorb some of the margins? Because, you wait and see in order to understand what's going on, and you react to it in a way not to affect. If you're a quality person, in our case, I'm not going to sacrifice my quality. Simple. Yeah. So this is me, but some other people might tell you, no, I have contracts and I can't supply the same coffee. I'll lower my grade and I'll go tell my client, if you want the same price, I'm going to lower my grades.
You heard it here first, folks. So we have one episode left of this series, and we're going to go deeper into the coffee crisis. And we're going to take a look at how it's going to impact the region in general with regards to that. So join us for the final episode of this series, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.